I am Walter Clapp, your host, and my live streaming software appears to be having issues. We're going to do some checks in the background, and while we get ready to get started, it is Monday, March 9th, 2026. Iran is all over the news today, as many of you are probably aware. We're here asking, why are there 435 congressmen who are abdicating their responsibility? That is the question. That is the question. That is the question. Why are there not more people deciding whether or not we're at war with Iran? All right. Got one check that looks like it is working. Okay. Very good. Well, I appreciate you being here, listening in, tuning in. You can even watch me if you want. I got some beautiful jade plants here in front of me. Got some stickers, Y435, you can put on your phone, like I've got here. We have buttons. Got buttons in my button can. And if you want to start up a local get together, club, group, whatever you want to call it, to talk about why we only have 435 members who aren't even doing their job, we would love to send you some stickers and we would love to send you some buttons. So, first thing I want to talk about today is this. This is a little resolution that I got passed last Saturday. That was just 2 days ago. I guess I could say I passed this resolution on Saturday at the Wyoming GOP Albany County Convention. So again, this is the Republican County Convention. I was elected as a delegate in my individual capacity, not my capacity as president or vice president of the Representation Foundation, or the No Cap Fund. But I brought this resolution to the caucus. That was about 3 weeks ago. I got it passed there and elected as a delegate. And I'm going to read for you the resolution as it was finally passed to, I would say, an overwhelming majority of the good people of Albany County. Resolution to support repealing and replacing the 1929 Permanent Apportionment Act and improve the quality of representation. Whereas our nation's founding battle cry was no taxation without representation. Whereas today our individual citizens are federally taxed on their income, they do not have high quality communication with federal representatives about how they should be taxed or how their tax dollars should be spent. Whereas our nation's founders intended the House of Representatives to be a chamber closest to the American people, the people's house. Whereas the founding debate of the ratio of representation in the House was amongst the most voluminous in the constitutional debates, and although various ratios were proposed, a hard cap was never contemplated by the framers. Whereas the first proposed amendment to our Bill of Rights would have fixed a ratio of representation in the House, but a last-minute conference amendment between the House and the Senate versions of the amendment created a mathematical impossibility such that there would be no representatives between 8 million and 10 million constituents, and thus the amendment did not pass and remains unratified. Whereas George Washington only spoke once during the constitutional debates in support of a smaller ratio, and in support of the idea that our speech only matters if we can use said speech to get good representation. Whereas, despite the foregoing historical facts and the clear intent of our founders, the number of representatives in Congress has been capped at 435 since 1911, when the U.S. population was around 92 million and was codified in the 1929 Permanent Apportionment Act. Whereas the U.S. population has grown more than 3 times that size to 331 million in 2020, and women have been enfranchised to vote, while the size of the House has remained capped at 435. Whereas when the cap on the size of the House was statutorily set in 1929, the average member of the House represented approximately 280,000 people, compared to approximately 774,000 people as of 2024. Whereas since the cap was statutorily set, Congress has continually delegated its authority to a growing alphabet soup of executive agencies, and the U.S. Supreme Court had ratified this delegation of authority in Chevron v. NRDC, until overturning that case in Loper-Bright v. Raimondo. Whereas the federal executive bureaucrats now number in the millions, a size that 435 representatives, even with staff, cannot reasonably oversee or claw back the powers previously delegated. If we rely on congressional staff to oversee the executive, 18-year-old bureaucrats and oligarchs run our country. Whereas each member of the House represents far more people on average than legislators in nearly all developed and developing democratic republics, and is an outlier amongst other member countries of the Organization for Economic OECD countries. Okay, we've got worse representation than any other OECD country. And we have nearly 3 times the number of citizens per representative as in Japan, which is the country with the next largest district size. So we're triple our closest peer, which is Japan. And frankly, a much more homogenous society that doesn't need as good of representation. Whereas representatives who serve fewer people are more likely to have contact with their constituents, receive higher marks for their constituent service, better reflect the views of their districts, and be less corrupt. Whereas the American Enterprise Institute has conducted studies which confirm neither political party but the people benefit from removing the cap on the House of Representatives. Whereas the apportionment of the House and the Electoral College are based on a census that counts both citizens and non-citizens without distinction. Be it resolved that the Republicans of Wyoming support and request the Republican delegation, the Republican National Committee, and President Donald J. Trump to support repealing and replacing the 1929 Permanent Apportionment Act. I'm going to say it again. Be it resolved, the Republicans of Wyoming support and request the Republican National Committee, President Donald J. Trump, and our Republican congressional delegation. I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to do it again. Oh, and Roger is here. Oh my goodness, Roger is going to join us on the station this evening. Here we go. This is good. We need Roger. Hey, Roger.
Nobody needs Roger. Roger's useless. Nobody needs Roger.
Oh yeah, because I speak for pushback. Because what I've been doing is I've been reading the resolution that I passed at the Wyoming Albany County GOP convention this past Saturday. And I think you're going to disagree with part of it. So this is good. So I went through all the whereas clauses, and we're at the be it resolved clause. Be it resolved, the Republicans of Wyoming support and request a Republican National Committee, President Donald J. Trump, and our Republican congressional delegation to support repealing and replacing the 1929 Permanent Apportionment Act, to decrease the ratio of constituents to representatives, add a citizenship question to the census, and add national voter identification requirements, period. So I passed that out of the county. It's going to go to the state convention. I'm going to be a delegate there to try to move that through the Republican machine. And but I'm interested, Roger, you just heard that live. I don't think you had seen it before. Do you, as a independent, left-leaning independent, do you disagree with an uncapped bill that's got a citizenship question or national voter ID requirements as an individual, not as not the organization?
Right. So the voter ID thing, I'll attack that. I'll get to that first.
Okay.
The ID of so a national voter ID. So the first thing that's going to happen is, if that's going to be a requirement, the government's going to have to pay for them, and they're going to have to manage all that.
Yeah.
Which is astounding to me. The Republicans forever have been saying the federal government is incompetent. They can't do anything right. And now you want to do a national, um, um, I'm so annoyed. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, a national ID,
The voter
right?
ID.
It does
So
seem counterintuitive because they're all about states' rights, or the Republican Party historically has been about states' rights.
right.
Each state should have its own ID, etc. We have had Real ID roll out, which is a federal
Yes.
standard, I think, that's required now to fly. But
Right.
I agree that Republicans historically would have pushed against anything like national ID. I think that is something historically that is somewhat not Republican, but it seems like that is where the winds are blowing these days.
And furthermore, that I see this as, whether intended or not, I see this as a backdoor to nationalizing the elections down the road. First, you get the voter ID, that's a national thing, and then well, hey, we've got the voter ID, and then like the federal government, they get the foot in the door and muscle and muscle and muscle and keep opening the door. And then the other issue I have with it is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? When you register to vote, you have to prove your citizenship.
Not in all
Why do you
states.
have to prove it every time you show up at the damn polls?
Well, you don't in some states, I think, is their argument. Like California, they actually, in New York, they both actually prohibit you from showing your ID. My father-in-law told me a story about being in a polling place in New York City. He had this encounter where he was not allowed to show his ID. And I think there's been some reporting on that. And so I think that is the genesis of this shift in the Republican Party. Yeah, but
So
I have.
you're telling me that people can register to vote without proof of citizenship in a state of the union?
Yes.
I need proof. I demand evidence.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna do a little search here. Okay. Let's see. So, okay, this is from the Secretary of State. Put this up here for you. So let me see if I can exit out of this. What do I need to register to vote in California? You must have a California driver's license or state ID or number, or the last 4 digits of your social security number. If you don't have either, you can still register. You'll be assigned a unique identifier to validate your registration. You are technically required to be a citizen and a California resident. But I think the argument has been that it is you don't actually need to show ID. Oh, and here we go. So what a utility bill, bank statement, paycheck, or government check, or official mail from a government agency is considered identification.
Yeah, those are HAVA IDs. I was working the polls last week on Primary Tuesday here in North Carolina, and those are HAVA IDs, which are acceptable if the standard IDs are not available.
So do I need to show ID to vote in California? In most cases, no. California does not generally require voters to show identification at the polls.
Right. So, I personally, in North Carolina, I had to show my ID when I went to vote. I don't specifically have a problem with it for me, but once again, this is like a solution in search of a problem. What is the frequency of voter fraud? It's infinitesimal. It virtually doesn't happen, and yet we spend all this time and effort having to go through this again and again and again and again to solve a problem that doesn't even exist, not in any substantial way. It's just a ridiculous waste of time and effort, in my opinion.
Okay, well, so here's my here's what I think is a potential solution, right? Why not, while we're conducting the census, if there's a citizenship question on the census, if you're a citizen, the census worker could just register you to vote at the same time. And then, and it would be like a one-to-one thing. There would be like little to no added additional cost. it would only happen every 10 years, right? So the registration to vote would only happen every 10 years. So there would be like, gaps for the 18 to 26 year olds or 18 to 28 year olds. But in general, you would catch, everyone every 10 years. And then, it's like, on the one hand, I have all of these privacy concerns and I don't really want a national ID. But
Mhm.
at the same hand, it's like Palantir and these different government programs already have all this data about me.
Right.
They're now running it through AI. They've assigned. I have some sort of digital ID out there, probably in a number of different databases, and
Mhm.
it seems somewhat silly to me that we're still kind of in the dark ages on like the voting front. Like I just don't understand why voting is not more technologically sophisticated with like a paper, with a paper trail backup. And again, I think that goes to the census worker. I think the census worker is kind of like integral to all of this, right? Because you're like visiting the home, you see the people, you like, you're going to be delegated with some sort of authority, like a polling worker, to decide, do I think this person is legit or hiding something, or are they trying to duplicate an ID, right? Like I go to this place and it's like, oh, there's supposed to be 37 people living at this address, right, according to my records, but there's only two, because and this is I don't think that this is necessarily true of it's not about people who are necessarily here illegally. I think there are people here legally who do commit some amount of fraud, and I think that it would be nice to remove some
Yeah, I
amount
was
of fraud.
just reading about one in Georgia, voted 9 times.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. Yeah. I know that it happens with like dead people too. Because and it's more like on the benefit side. And I've dealt with this in my legal career, where somebody will pass away, and basically there's an obligation for the funeral home to notify the Social Security
Social
Administration,
Security.
and they normally do. But there are people who hide that, right? Who like hide the death, and
Yes.
and then they keep going for a long time. And it seems like and this is, I guess it is somewhat invasive, but I mean the whole census process was kind of in the founding document, and it just seems like spending a little bit more money on the front end of the census and getting like a better sense of who's where is it's like a formal way of acknowledging what we're already doing on the back end. And maybe that's that's not very Republican of me to say, or very conservative, but I'm just
Mm.
acknowledging the digital reality of the present moment. I don't know.
Yeah, and as far as the citizenship question on the census, so if we want to do that, then we got to do the heavy lifting of rewriting or making an amendment to the Constitution, so that we don't have this language about persons versus citizens versus voters. Because
Yeah.
if we do the one without the other in the most litigious society in the history of the freaking universe, we will spend all of our wealth prosecuting and defending these claims.
Yeah. Well, and so let's just I'm gonna pull up the 14th Amendment so we can read it. What we're talking about. Why isn't this? I'm not at my normal desk. I don't have my pocket Constitution in front of me, so just give me a second.
I got mine.
Okay. Do you want to read
Go
the second clause for us? Section.
All right. We're talking about the 14th, section 1,
Yeah, section 2.
Section 2. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed, period. But when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for president and vice president of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive and judicial officers of a state, or the members of the legislature thereof, is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state, being 21 years of age and citizens of the United States, or in any way abridged except for participation in rebellion or other crime, the basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the proportion which the number of such male citizens shall bear to the whole number of male citizens 21 years of age in such state, period.
And then, so that second clause of Section 2 is what the documentary that we learned about 2 weeks ago is all about. We're kind of focused in on this first one, and it's so counting the whole number of persons in each state. And so my argument, Roger, is, the census is going to count the whole number of persons in each state, and I think you can still, maybe the Constitution absolutely requires you, and the Supreme Court will say, right, that the Constitution requires you to apportion based on the counting of the whole number of persons in each state, right?
Right.
But you could also count the citizens. It doesn't say you can't count the citizens, I don't think. So I think if there was legislation, I don't think there's any world in which counting citizens would be found illegal. I think it is almost certainly legal to count citizens if you fund it through congressional appropriations. I do not think it would be legal, or it was, the Supreme Court already found it was not legal for the executive branch to say, we're going to add a citizenship question
Right.
to the census. So I think the how you apportion question is slightly different from the what questions you can ask.
The number of
Does that make sense?
souls.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
like,
right.
we have to count on the number of souls, and we have to apportion based on the number of souls. And I think that there's a good argument for that, right? And in some ways, it actually incentivizes us to have, realistic immigration policies, right? And but I do think it also pushes on this question of, allowing people who are not citizens to vote potentially. And I understand that some states have done a good job, I think, enforcing those laws. I think Wyoming also has done a very good job of enforcing those laws. I think other states haven't, and so it's interesting, this like flip of like Democrats and Republicans on states' rights is just, it's just kind of mind-boggling, but it is here, and so I'm interested though, Roger. Just in an imaginary scenario where you're a congressman. Or senator, and I'm just going to say you're a Democratic congressman.
Okay. I'll wear it.
Would you approve a bill that has these three things that I've discussed? Is it worth the compromise, or do you think it takes away from uncapping the House?
It might be worth the compromise. The problem is compromising on these in the inside of a box in a vacuum is problematic because of the reasons I said earlier. It's just going to open the door wider for more and more legislation, and it's going to bog us down. You've heard me before relate how the U.S. is like that Dickens novel, Bleak House, right? Jarndyce versus Jarndyce. A bunch of people have expectations of getting money from an estate, and they fight over it forever until the estate's all gone. It's been consumed by lawyers' fees. That's the U.S.
Common
Between
occurrence.
The insurance companies and lawyers, they're going to have all the money.
You're not totally wrong. So I sympathize.
Right.
Right,
So
well,
I think
it's a maybe. Depends on the details. Depends. I got to read the bill. I think that would be a fair response.
There is almost nothing I wouldn't trade for uncapping the House if I were in Congress. It would have to be pretty damn drastic before I would not agree to that compromise. Because once we uncap the House, I won't say all bets are off, but the rate of change will accelerate. And who knows what this compromise will be left in the dust heap, or maybe it'll prove that it's valuable. I don't know. There's a lot I would trade and compromise on to get the House uncapped, especially if we go big, right? Bigger than the cube root rule, bigger than Wyoming times two.
So this is interesting. So, I got up in the front of this room. There's probably like, 30 40. There was 40 Republicans in the room who were all voting, and I got up there and I read this, and we had a discussion. It was pretty fruitful. A couple people were very supportive of it. A couple of them were very concerned about the implementation, that the details could get muddied, and certain groups would get power. But with each of these, I would provide the responses, which we always do, Roger, that
Sure.
that you know so well. But what was
Absolutely.
very interesting was the room 100% turned to like 4,000 reps, 3,000 reps, and like that was where the that was not me, it was them, and they're just like, well, where are we going to put 4,000 reps? Where are we going to put 3,000 reps? What about the expense? And so one person was talking about reducing the pay of the congressman, and I had to remind them how many non-DoD federal employees we have that we pay approximately the same salary as a congressman or a staffer. And it was fascinating dialogue. It was good. I think it was productive, and but it was interesting that they didn't seem focused on a small uncap to solve the problem. They wanted a big uncap, but they wanted just less pay for each member. Seemed to kind of be where the people pushing back was, and I was not, I wasn't really expecting that. And so it's, I think the people are kind of, everyone is looking around, even the diehard Republicans, showing up at a county convention, are interested in this reform, at least discussing it, and that was the consensus at the end. The one gentleman who disagrees with me, and when he and I have talked about it a number of times, and he said, I'm going to support this because I think we need to debate it, and I was just like, oh, that's music to my ears, right? It's like you please disagree with me. Let's just debate it, right?
Is that important? We welcome your disagreement.
Yeah.
And my response in settings like that, you've heard me say it before when people talk about, we're just going to have so many more people, more worthless politicians. My response to that is always, oh, you think we should be bargain shopping for our representation? You think that's a good strategy? Isn't that what got us in this trouble in the first place? And that would be my response to somebody who wants to pay the people, the members less also. Oh, yeah. You want bargain rate representation? That's your position? You think that's how we get out of this mess, with bargain rate representation? Help me understand, because it sounds backwards to me, right? That's my response.
I like it. I think you're absolutely right. I did not come up with that witty retort. I wish I had. I will next time.
I use it all the time.
Well, and it's so true. I mean, I think it's a tough job. I mean, it's interesting though. One of the guys who I respect in the room, who was helping actually lead the meeting, what he got when he had his turn to speak, what he said was, the type of representative that we have today is just fundamentally different from somebody that we would have had 150 years ago, right? Like, we just have these like media personalities who are just lying, scumbags basically. Well, and the type of representation is just fundamentally different. And he's like, if this changes the type of representation that we can get, I'm all for it. But that goes to your quality argument, right? Yeah.
I was making that argument at Principles First, and that's really the first time I came up with those words, right? But yeah, I believe if the districts were half the size or smaller than they are today, we definitely will have a fundamentally different type of person running for Congress, and I think it will be an improvement. But it will definitely, because so many of the people are there, lying scumbags, call them what you like. I say they're there to leverage that position for something more lucrative down the road, right? They're only there to perform as long as they need to for the think tank, the academic job, the corporate board, the Fox News gig, whatever. MS Now, what is that? What it is? MS Now. So many of them are there performing as an audition for the next thing. We need to get rid of those people, and part of the way we do that is to make it less powerful, attractive, lucrative, sexy, less sexy to be in Congress. I hate
Yeah.
using that word, but yeah, less
It's
attractive.
so funny. I saw Ben Sass did an interview with the Hoover Institute recently, and he gave the line, that DC is just Hollywood for ugly people. Uh, and I think that's it. And I don't like to use ad hominem. And I'm not talking about a specific individual. And it's also, I think, in a lot of ways, it's not the individual's fault. That's our whole point. It's a structural issue that incentivizes this type of behavior, but it is performative. And my problem with performative, right, or when a person is putting on a performance, it implies that it's not their true self, right? It's not honest, right? It is a lie in some way, right? It maybe not like a calling something green black, but it's distraction. It's manipulation.
It's
It's
still
trying to get
false
you to feel
representation.
away.
It's false
Right.
representation.
Okay. And so I wanted to get to this because I haven't announced this yet. But so I also actually got a platform change in the Wyoming GOP platforms, and we changed fair representation to true representation. And so we had a little bit of a discussion about this, which I thought, it's kind of semantic and silly, but the idea is that in some ways, fair is much more subjective than like honest or true. And so we inserted true because we wanted to give the indication that we don't want performative representatives, right? Even if it like a fair system, like where we get our performances, is still not the type of representation we want, right? We want true high quality representation. Anyway,
Okay.
reasonable minds can disagree. The point
I
is
don't
getting them
disagree. It's just,
talking about representation.
that's a lawyer lane, man. That's just something I wouldn't ever have thought about.
Yeah, that one passed very easily. I tried to put in another platform change. It was at the beginning. It was about that governments derive their power from the consent of the governed. That's our number one platform plank. And I tried to add, governments derive their powers through consent of the governed, or no, it's not through twice, but something close to that, through consent of the governed, but like via representation or via representatives. And I got about half of the votes in the room, but we needed more than half in order to make a platform change. So I did not get that passed, and that actually was first. So we did the platforms first, and then the resolution second. I think if it had gone the other way around, I could have gotten it. So maybe in 2 years I'll be able to make that change. But yeah, it was grassroots. I mean, it's funny to be in a room with 40 other people who are trying to figure these things out. I mean, one of the interesting things is that I've discovered is basically the way this organization works. The Republican Party, at least in Wyoming, at least in Albany County, is that the governance is instituted at the caucus. So basically, like when you have your precinct caucuses, it's like at that moment the quote unquote central committee basically kind of disbands and is then is just like almost like a pure democracy. But the goal is to immediately take it from a pure democracy to a republic. So in the caucus, you get together and you discuss, are we going to, resolutions, platform changes, bylaw changes, and then you vote on somebody to send to the county convention, with those changes from your precinct to represent them and present them, and that's what we did. And then so at the county convention, you do the same thing. We vote on these the bylaw changes, the platform changes, and these resolutions, and then we vote on delegates to then take all of these changes to the state level. Right. And then the same thing happens at the state level to take it to the national level, and obviously there are many problems with the system, and my I've got a good buddy from undergrad who went to Harvard Law School and was in a similar situation in Texas, and I think did not know how to. He did not know how to politic, and had a very sour experience. Mine has been very positive. I mean, a lot of the people in the room I disagree with about a lot of things. Maybe I certainly disagree with some people about some things, and we have disagreed. But they are willing. They are fundamentally there. I think with good intentions, and they're trying to like work through these things, and it's like this hard kind of where the rubber meets the road, and it really is kind of inspiring. It would be more inspiring if there were some other young people, because I would say the average age of the room was 60, and other than a couple college kids who were there to count votes, I was definitely the youngest person. And that's
what level were you at Saturday? Was that the state convention or
that's the county?
The county?
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm going to be talking to the chair of the Democrat Party here in Alamance County on Wednesday afternoon.
Nice. Cool. Do you know when your caucus is?
No, I have no idea. I tried to meet with him in January, but he said, come to the meeting. And I was out of town in Maryland with a client. February, I went to the meeting and he wasn't there. So now we've actually scheduled some time that's not a part of a meeting. But he wouldn't schedule it until after the primaries last Tuesday. Obviously, county chair's got stuff to do for a primary. But
you had your primaries
in North Carolina, last Tuesday.
Whoa, that is so early. Ours are not until August.
You mean
or September?
Texas took up all the oxygen on that day? You didn't hear about North Carolina's primary or Arkansas's?
No.
Both.
Yeah. Texas did take up all the air on that day. I feel like the whole nation was watching Cornyn and Abbott and Tallarico and
Crockett.
Thank you.
Yep. So we had ours. Now our the guy who won in my district, right? I'm currently represented by Richard Hudson, NC9. He's Republican. He's also the chair of the Republican campaign committee.
Okay.
So he doesn't respond to anything from me. But the guy who won the Democratic nomination is a guy named Richard Ojeda.
Okay.
You ever hear of this guy?
I haven't.
I'm sure you've seen him on Twitter back in the day. His favorite word when he disagrees with you is jackaloon. That's what he calls
jackaloon.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He's ex-military from West Virginia. He has had elected office in West Virginia when he was there. Now he's in North Carolina. But he's a very military guy. He doesn't back down from a confrontation. I'm looking forward to seeing him and how he's going to campaign against Hudson. Hopefully they'll get a chance to get on a stage together because Ojeda is a very assertive personality type for sure. And I would love to be able to hopefully I can get the chair to put me in touch with him in a meaningful way to have a conversation about uncapping the House, because he would be a perfect vessel. If I can convince him, if he even hears about it, I shouldn't have to convince him. He'll agree it's the way to go. And he's the kind of guy who will trumpet it.
I love it.
Maybe I can get him on the show.
Yeah, let's do it. That would be great. I am just a little bit aghast at the whole situation in the Middle East. What are your
a little aghast?
I mean, I feel like when your mouth is like hanging open long enough, you can't like get it farther open. It's like I'm just like constantly
catching flies.
Yeah, I mean it is just incredible. Well, so Iran now has a new leader, which is Ayatollah Khamenei's son, and man, I mean, do you think the guy is going to last?
I'm hearing that song by The Who.
What's the song? What is it?
We Don't Get Fooled Again. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
I love it.
Great song from the 60s. We Don't Get Fooled Again. And it makes big airplay every 4 years before the election. Hope we don't get fooled again. It's a great song.
Oh my God.
I'll send you a YouTube link later.
All right. I love it.
Yeah, but I can't help but think that the sort of the military adventurism, sort of the military gambits that he's engaged with over the past several years, the successes, the quick strike and get Maduro out of Venezuela, the quick thing, obliterating or not the nuclear facilities in Iran last year. These guys are pumped up. They're high on their own supply kind of thing, and now they've gone in to do this Iran strike, this Iran operation, thinking it's going to be quick and easy, and that's it. Move on.
I gotta show you something that I came across. I think it's too good. So this
Okay.
is it was a little bit meta. I'm introducing Patrick Bet David is about to introduce a clip from Marco Rubio in 2015. Let me know if you can't hear it. Okay.
All right. I cannot hear the guy's speech. I cannot hear him. Nope.
2015.
I don't know why I can't hear the audio, but there's no audio coming through. Can't hear what he's saying. I'll just read it.
Oh, you can't hear it?
No.
Oh, crud.
Not.
Well, that was a waste of dead air. I wonder if there's a way I can make that work.
Yeah, I saw something else recently. Somebody had put together a time lapse of Bibi Netanyahu saying, Iran is right around the corner. They'll have a nuclear weapon in 2 weeks. He's been saying it for 30 years.
Well,
30 years in this tune.
Yeah, they have. I mean, the U.S. famously has been involved in Iran, since 20, say.
Oh yeah, 1953, as I recall.
Yeah, I was gonna say I started with the wrong numbers. The 1950s, absolutely. And have you? Yeah, okay. But seeing Marco Rubio in 2015, and he says, he starts the speech by saying, "I want this on the record because this is what's going to happen." And what he says is, Iran is going to get these capabilities to protect a nuclear strategy, and then we can't do anything. And he said, the next Congress or the next administration may not be strong, or the current one may not be strong. The next one's going to reverse it, and we're going to have to go there and take it out. And so it's like you can just see how powerful Marco Rubio is inside of this Trump administration, right? I mean, I think in a lot of ways, Trump is calling the shots, but I don't know if Trump really wanted to invade Iran, or if it was just the inertia of the kind of national security moment, right? Like 50 years of saying this thing, and you have enough people who believe it, and maybe it's true, and so it's just got to happen. And it is just, I mean, seeing us in war in the Middle East again under the peace president is just, without a congressional declaration of war, threats of troops on the ground, threats of a freaking draft. I'm just aghast, right? I cannot believe it. And I'm not saying that, Iran having a nuclear weapon is something I want, right? I think as a global superpower, we do have some responsibility in the nuclear mutually assured destruction world. But yeah, I mean, we're going to see real quick how this goes. I mean, we're looking at $4 gas, probably early next week. We're looking at billions more sent out from our tax dollars.
Yep.
And what will be the result, right? I mean, this has just been an obsession of America since 1953. What's the plan? Because I don't see it.
Here's the plan. Here's the plan. The plan is for Trump to do whatever the hell he wants and spend as much money as he wants and make the debt so freaking high that when he's finally thrown out of office, Democrats' hands are tied. There's only so much you can do when you have, enough debt to sink the planet into another galaxy, right? It's the cycle. It goes again and again. Either we cut the taxes or we spend the money on the wars, and that makes people unhappy. And then Democrats come in and have to try and clean up the mess with fewer and fewer tools each time, because the debt gets bigger and bigger each time. Next, money's going to have to come out of the Defense Department budget. We're going to have to knock that down a couple of $100 million or something in order to address the debt. That's one of the few things available that can be cut, and that's going to be painful, and people are going to bitch about it. And it may take another 10 years before the pain of not doing it gets great enough, but it's going to have to happen.
Yeah. In other news,
gas is $3.16 here, by the way, at the club, at the place I buy. $3.16.
Okay, it's only it's like $2.69 here right now. Other things. 3 men, Orrin Tal and Alan Alexander, were convicted for a years-long sex trafficking scheme. They were high-profile real estate brokers, and they were just convicted in a major federal trial in Manhattan. Yeah, there was also
go ahead. I saw that story on the evening news.
Yeah, some good. I feel like, hey, a little good news sprinkled in, doesn't hurt anybody. Then we've also got improvised explosive devices getting thrown outside of New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani's residence, I think into protesters. I don't think they went off, right? But they were, in fact, bombs.
Yeah, pure dumb luck, apparently. The one they found that didn't go off was packed with an explosive that is sensitive to impact and heat.
Yeah.
There's not really a good explanation for why it didn't go off. Yeah, they were counter protesting the protests that were going on, and in the process they threw one of these things across the fence into where the mayor lives. Gracie Mansion, I guess, is the traditional place, but I guess he doesn't live there now.
Oh, interesting. So I saw a video of the guy throw the bomb, and there's a protester with a megaphone, and he's saying, I think he's talking about Muslims being welcome, and this guy goes and like jumps on his back and screams some terrorist phrase and chunks the bomb over his back. I mean, it's like a Times cover kind of photo situation, and I mean, again, by blessings, luck that thing did not go off and kill a bunch of people. It's just incredible.
Yeah, apparently the word is on the news, these cats were radicalized ISIS sympathizers, wannabe, whatever. ISIS was their job. So
and this goes back to Iran, right?
Exactly.
There's I mean, whether or not formal or not, I think we can all expect that there is going to be some death to America chanting from certain areas of the world, and there may or may not be sleeper cells that may or may not get activated, according to various intelligence sources that have been reporting in the mainstream news. So I hope everyone is stay safe out there.
Yeah, sleeper cells. I don't want to think about that.
Okay. That's not a good one. Well, so and then in another move, we currently are in a shutdown, a partial shutdown of DHS, and so I've been seeing reports that TSA lines have been long, but I think more importantly, I think that the target was ICE, but maybe they didn't get the cuts as detailed as they were hoping. But I certainly hope that we don't there's not a big terrorist event during this DHS shutdown, and it's not like tied to that, because then you see a backlash, and then the DHS is like, they sell us all a DHS in-home device or something, right?
Yeah.
I don't like I don't love this game that our politicians are playing with our safety.
Yeah, the spring breakers are bummed, man. They're having to stand in long lines. I heard that on the evening news as well. And the shutdown doesn't really affect ICE because ICE is not dependent on the funding bills in the normal way because they got a big pot of money from the one big bastard bill.
Uh,
So they got a big pot of money already up front, and they can skip to the Lumi darling. They don't give a damn about whether the government's going or not.
well, so yeah, I don't know if this. I mean, I don't know. The shutdown political games are just. I mean, it's just one more reason to uncap the House. It is just. It's like mind numbing that our Congress does. They don't actually do any real budgeting. Instead, leadership does budgeting, and then leadership decides, actually, we're not going to budget anything for this. Why? Because it's politically expedient. We're not here to serve you. We're here to serve ourselves. All of you, go hike up a tree. It's just like, it's just crazy.
Yeah. Pretty much, they do what they want, and they're not afraid of accountability at this point because congressional districts have gotten so large. It's so polarized. They're reelected at whatever, we've had this conversation, 90%, 95% reelection rate for Congress, even though overall the approval rating for Congress is so low, yet we keep sending the same clowns back. I think things might be a little different this time. Incumbents are not doing well. We had 3, not at the federal level, in the state level, right? So I'll just give you a quick primer on North Carolina. So for the past several cycles, we've elected a Democrat for governor, Democrat lieutenant governor. One term we had a Republican lieutenant governor, but the attorney general, the secretary of state, the cabinet level, what they call the office of state in North Carolina, that's advised the governor. They've all been Democrats, but the legislature has been on the edge of or over the line for a supermajority for several since 2010. Right? Because we're so heavily gerrymandered, not only at the federal level, at the state level. So they've been right on the edge of having, if they don't have a supermajority, they've been on the edge of it so they can override the governor's vetoes. And there's been several occasions in the past 2 General Assemblies, right, the past 2-year terms, where 3 Democrats specifically have repeatedly voted to override the governor's veto. They all lost their primaries. Last week, they're gone. And that's on the Democrat side. Right now, the Speaker of the Senate, the Majority Leader in the North Carolina Senate, Phil Berger, has been in office for, I think he predates the Tea Party move, right?
Yeah.
But he became senator and he became the leader, and he's a mass power. He's the longest serving Senate Majority Leader in the nation. Right, he's extraordinarily powerful, and Trump wanted, the gerrymandering done in Texas and any other states. North Carolina stepped up. Berger said, "Yeah, we'll do it. We'll add." So they went and gerrymandered and gave one. They've tried to make one more Republican safe seats. They did this mid-decade gerrymandering.
Yeah.
Phil Berger is losing. The period's not over yet, but the county sheriff in Rockingham County, Sam Page, who's been in office even longer than Berger, ran against him. And at the end of the day on election day, before they went to the provisionals, the sheriff was ahead by 2 votes. Wow. Now he's ahead by 23 votes. And and so Berger's a very powerful person. And it's much more insidious than that. He has 2 sons. One of those sons sits on the Rockingham County Board of Elections. Now, this state Senate district includes all Rockingham County and northern part of Guilford County, next door where Greensboro is located. Okay. So one of his sons is on the Board of Elections for Rockingham County, which is where the majority of the vote is. And his father is losing an election. Right? Wow. The state Board of Elections is currently overseen by the state auditor in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Does that sound right to you? Why would the Board of Elections be overseen by the state auditor?
I mean, because you want to audit elections?
No, because once again, a Democrat won the election in November. And between election day, when it was clear that we're going to have another Democrat governor, and the end of the legislative session, they went in and quickly passed a law changing this and taking the state board of elections away from the governor and giving it to the auditor, because he's the only Republican who won. I think he's the only Republican who won a statewide race.
Okay. Well, I mean, that also makes sense. But a little harder. Yes, got it.
Okay, so there's two things. So if it comes down to something with the state board of elections, right?
Yeah.
The guy who's in charge of it owes his responsibility there to Berger, because Berger explicitly took it from the governor and gave it to him explicitly less than a year ago, right? So he's got one son on the Rockingham County Board of Elections. He's got the state auditor, I won't say in his pocket, but the state auditor's been out there campaigning with him.
Certainly on his side.
Out there on the campaign trail with him. And let's say this all falls apart and gets messy and has to go to the state Supreme Court. His other son is a justice on the Supreme Court who has a history of not recusing for cases that he probably should.
Huh.
Right?
Well,
and this guy's losing by 23 votes.
Well, I mean, it's like simultaneously scary, but also good news. Like it sounds like the people are saying enough's enough.
Yeah, but are enough people saying it?
I mean, maybe 23.
Do you recall the shenanigans that went on here 2 years ago with our Supreme Court Justice Allison Riggs won the election, but the loser, Jefferson, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he went on and on. They went to the Board of Elections, which was not under the control of a Republican state auditor at the time. They tried to get the state Board of Elections. They pressured them. They tried everything they could do. It ended up in the courts. The whole thing, you went crazy, right? But they weren't successful. The person who got the most votes is seated on the court today.
Okay.
But now the state Board of Elections is no longer in the hands of the governor. It's in the hands of the state auditor.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, these battles between the branches. I mean, it sounds like North Carolina is a particularly vicious example.
Yes.
But it also sounded like you were saying several of these Republicans lost.
No. The only one I've mentioned that lost is Phil Berger, the state Senate, the majority leader of the state Senate. The other three that I mentioned that lost their primaries, those are Democrats that had crossed over the aisle and provided the one extra vote to override the Democrat governor's veto.
Okay, got it.
Right? And there's a lot more history with people switching parties and going across the line and stuff in the past few years. I won't try to get into any of that. Okay. But especially in the area where some of these legislations were, the voters feel burned, and with good reason, over the past few cycles. They're pissed off, and it's showing up here. Democrat incumbents, you have been supporting, you have not been supporting the governor. You have provided, this last vote to override the governor's veto more than once. That's not what we elected you to do. So hit the trail.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that was interesting. The show might just become a Republican and a Democrat hash it out, discussing Wyoming and North Carolina and the U.S.
I'm not a Democrat. Let the record be clear. I'm a lifelong independent. Just making sure the listeners understand.
That's right. Are you? Would you consider registering as a Democrat in order to get a uncapped resolution passed in a Democratic primary?
Absolutely.
Or convention. Would. Convention.
I absolutely would. I have considered joining the Democratic Party recently, just so they have another number in the column. There's all this noise about the Republican Party outnumbers the Democrats in North Carolina for the first time in yada 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 blah blah. Whatever, man. What matters is the independents, right? The 3% difference between the two parties is not gonna make it float. But I'll tell you candidly, last Tuesday in North Carolina, if you're unaffiliated, you can vote in the primary. You can choose the Republican ballot or the Democrat ballot.
Oh,
I
okay.
chose the Republican ballot last week, and I voted for the people that I voted against the people I don't want to win. Michael
Yep,
Watley
yeah.
won, right? He's the Republican nominee. I did not
Yeah.
vote for Michael Watley. There were three
Okay.
candidates for sheriff. No candidates on the Democrat side. All candidates for sheriff were on the
Or
Republican
in the
side.
primary.
One of them is a female. I voted for the female. I think we need more females in elected office, particularly something like sheriff. Now, I did some research on this person. She's got no shot at winning, and she's actually endorsing one of the other people who's not the current sheriff. That she's
Okay.
even though she's on the ballot, she's running. She really wants the other person who's not the incumbent to win. So I don't know how that's going to shake out. But the point is, in North Carolina, you've heard me complain before about this law from 1917 that prohibits citizen-led ballot initiatives. Right?
Yeah.
Citizens can't get together and put anything on the ballot. We have to go through the General Assembly. Right? If they're going to short me that way, then I feel perfectly justified in going backdoor and doing a spoiler ballot on the Republican side.
Well,
Not
I'm glad you got to exercise your free will, Roger. I think it's a great opportunity anytime you can exercise free will, and I'm glad we live. Even the crumbling empire still affords us some of these opportunities. So I appreciate you being with me this evening. And any final words before we sign off?
I want more representation.
All right. Well, peace, love, and representation.
And chili dogs.
And chili dogs.